What's up, y'all, and welcome back to Country Cast. We got a really fun and interesting one for you guys today because we are going to talk about country artists and groups that just sort of disappeared from the spotlight. Now, one-hit wonders, they're one thing, but who we have on our list for you today are artists and groups that really left their mark and were favorites to many. And on top of all of that, these folks produced really great albums and several hits. Could it be that some were just done entirely with country music? Or was there maybe another underlying reason as to why these successful careers faded? So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. First up on our list is probably one of the most underrated country artists, Chris Cagle. Cagle hit the scene in the early 2000s, and talk about coming in hot. Chris Cagle came out the gate with his first studio album, Play It Loud, which featured singles like Laredo, My Love Goes On, and of course, his biggest single of all time, I Breathe In, Breathe Out. Some really great deep tracks also came from that record, which were songs like Country by the Grace of God and Who Needs the Whiskey. Play It Loud certified gold. And wouldn't you know it, his sophomore album, which was self-titled and dropped in 2003, matched his debut record by also going gold. But the difference here is that this record also went number one. Chris Cagle's second album featured What a Beautiful Day and Chicks Dig It. Two really successful hits, and quite frankly, they were huge at the time that they made their way onto the charts and into the hearts of country music fans. Now, Cagle continued to find success with his third album, Anywhere But Here. It reached number 4 on the charts. Anywhere But Here featured Miss Me Baby, and one of my personal favorites, the title track, Anywhere But Here. Then in 2008, he released My Life's Been a Country Song. This was his fourth record, and again, this album did, well, you guessed it, it went number 1. His huge hit from the record was What Kinda Gone. But then we get to 2012, which would be his last studio album, Back in the Saddle. The record was again successful. It peaked at number 6 on the top country albums chart and featured singles like Got My Country On, Let There Be Cowgirls, Dance Baby Dance, and Thank God She Left the Whiskey. So what I'm getting at here is, Chris Cagle never really showed signs of slowing down or even becoming irrelevant, but he seems to be enjoying where he is in his life now. He still is making tour rounds, and it's since 2012 we have received no new music. It's been 10 years since we've received any new music from Chris Cagle, but again, I believe that he was one of the most underrated artists during his prime, but he seems to like where he's at now. So who knows? Will we get another album or single? It's up in the air. Now we are going to take it back a little further to the 60s with Bobby Gentry. Bobby Gentry was a big part of country music and took the genre to newer audiences, creating an even larger growth regarding the fan base in country. Bobby Gentry made her debut with her signature song, Ode to Billie Joe. Now, country music loves storytelling. That is what the genre is really known for in its lyrical value. Well, Ode to Billie Joe did just that, as it paints a picture as she sings the song and tells the tale of a suicide that happens off the Tallahatchie Bridge in a town. And it was simply a song that transitioned the growth of country over into the pop charts, and it was just a fantastic song. Ode to Billie Joe spent 4 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Rolling Stone even placed it on their 500 greatest songs of all time lists. Now, in 1968, she even took home the Grammy for Best New Artist, Best Vocal Performance by a Female Artist, and Best Contemporary Female Solo Vocal Performance, obviously coming from the Ode to Billie Joe. Her future was bright. That slight rasp and Delta blues style that intertwined into her sound really paved an incredible path for Gentry. And throughout several years, she forged that incredible path, releasing 7 albums and working even alongside Glenn Campbell. Oh, and yeah, for those who may not know, Bobby Gentry was also responsible for this song. You may know it. It's called Fancy. That's right, the hit made famous by Reba McEntire. Gentry released Fancy back in 1969, and it was the title track to her album Fancy. As you can see, she is also wearing the red dress that it's known for. Now, it was released in 1970. At the time, Fancy did okay commercially, but Reba really took it to new heights after she released her cover. Unfortunately, by the 1980s, Gentry decided to step away from music and performing live. She made her final public appearance in 1982 at the 17th Annual ACM Awards. In just a short time, Bobbie Gentry was able to become one of the most influential and respected acts in the business. Too bad we can't have just one more album. Third on our list is Lone Star. Man, what happened to Lone Star? These guys were absolutely phenomenal, but it seems as though the constant rotation of members and even rejection of a founding member created the band's ultimate demise, you could say. Lone Star dropped their debut self-titled album in 1995, and boy did it have some heaters, with hits like Heartbroke Every Day, Tequila Talkin', Running Away With My Heart, and of course, No News. For a debut album and fresh band, they started off pretty damn good, with their debut album peaking at number 11 on the top country albums chart, and No News becoming their first number 1 single. Lone Star continued to be a big player throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, with hits like Amazed, Tell Her, What About Now, I'm Already There, Unusually Unusual, Not a Day Goes By, You Walked In, Everything's Changed. You get where I'm going? My Front Porch Looking In. It's a no-brainer that Lone Star was a beloved group, but around 2004, 2005, the band started to see a bit of a decline in success and sales, which it appears that there may be a few reasons as to why. Even though early on Lone Star was successful, drama struck the band. Now, the founders of Lone Star, if you remember, were lead vocalist Richie McDonald, excellent singer, lead guitarist Michael Britt, keyboardist Dean Sams, drummer Keach Rainwater, and last but not least, bass guitarist John Rich. Yeah, John Rich from Big and Rich. The first sign of trouble, though, was when John Rich was fired from the band. Rich appeared on Marty Smith's podcast known as The Road You Leave Behind, where he enlightened that he was fired from the band, or that's how he portrays it, where he said, I wanted to write songs like Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, and they wanted to write songs like Mr. Mom. So it seems as though songwriting differences is what really sparked John Rich's departure from the band, and Lone Star was able to move on and stay successful for some time without him, and even John Rich got to do his own thing, which also panned out very well with Big Kenny and their duo Big and Rich, so maybe it was for the better. But now looking at Lone Star's catalog, their song choices did seem to become pretty stale, as they started to all sound pretty similar. Also, it did not help much when lead vocalist Richie McDonald left the band in 2007 and was replaced by former McAllister vocalist Cody Collins. Now, McDonald did make his return in 2011, but here we go again. Lone Star remained pretty neutral with their music, and in 2021, well, McDonald left again. Now Lone Star's lead vocalist is Drew Womack, who was the former lead vocalist for Sons of the Desert. Unfortunately, Lone Star seemed to never really find themselves as a band, and they continue to use fill-in musicians and just never regained the initial steam that they started with. However, there is no argument that in their prime that they can be discounted for any of their work. How about we take it back again and look at Ricky Van Shelton, one of the greatest voices to have in country music. He was simply phenomenal. Ricky's case, though, is pretty simple. Van Shelton recorded 9 albums. His first 4 records, Wild Eyed Dream, Loving Proof, Ricky Van Shelton 3, and Back Roads, all went platinum. Then his 5th and 6th album, Don't Overlook Salvation and A Bridge I Didn't Burn, certified as gold. Ricky Van Shelton released 3 more records, with Fried Green Tomatoes being his last in the year of 2000, but those albums did not find nearly as much success as his previous ones. But like most do in their line of work, Ricky Van Shelton announced retirement from the music business in 2006, and it was to spend more time with his family. Like I said, it was pretty straightforward, but we sure do miss him. Ricky Van Shelton was an excellent artist in country music, and one who was really loved by fans. Next up on our list is Billy Currington. Billy Currington is a bit of a unique situation, as he is still in the genre doing his thing, releasing albums and singles and still doing live performances, so not really completely vanished, but he has had quite the fade, if you will. Billy Currington is truly a hell of a songwriter. He cut hits for the King George Strait and Tracy Byrd early on, and let's face it, if George is taking your songs, well, you're probably doing something right. And quite frankly, when Billy Currington started out in 2003 with his debut self-titled album, he gave us some really great music, with hits like I Got a Feelin' and Walk a Little Straighter and Off My Rocker. The album peaked at number 17 on the top country albums chart, so okay, and number 1 on Billboard's top heat seekers. So Currington was looking to be a top prospect in the business. Earlier when I mentioned he must be doing something right, well, he was, as this was the title for his sophomore album as well, and it was filled with hits, simply filled. Good Directions, Must Be Doing Something Right, the title track, Why, and his Kenny Rogers cover of Lucille. Must Be Doing Something Right and Good Directions went number 1, and the album has been since certified as platinum. 2008 and 2010, Billy kept his momentum, dropping his records Little Bit of Everything and Enjoy Yourself. Both albums produced multiple number 1 hits like People Are Crazy and That's How Country Boys Roll, Pretty Good at Drinking Beer, and Let Me Down Easy. Both albums also certified as gold records. But by 2013, something was a little different, maybe the sound. Currington started to see his decline after his release of We Are Tonight. In 2015, his album Summer Forever, however, sort of gave him a little bit more pep in his step as it's certified as gold. But then again, by 2021, his album Intuition was released, and in my opinion, it may have confused fans. And Intuition was Currington's take on mixing like an EDM sound with his country style, but it felt very lost. Now, right before that record, Intuition, Billy did release 3 singles that were spread years apart though, and many believe that there was another country album in the works, but it never came to fruition, and we ended up with the EDM style Intuition record. Billy Currington showed a lot of promise in his debut and early recordings, and his name is clearly not mentioned as much as it ever was when he first got into the business. I believe that if Currington maybe turns back to his roots, we could have another gold record on our hands from him. How about Buddy Jewell? Remember that guy? Buddy was expected to be a major star in the business, especially after he beat out Miranda Lambert and won the first ever season of Nashville Star. I mean, he beat Miranda Lambert. That's a pretty serious accomplishment, as Miranda is one of the biggest names in country and has an amazing voice. But his first album that he released after winning Nashville Star would be his only real success. Now, that record did have multiple hits like Help Pour Out the Rain, Lacey Song, and Sweet Southern Comfort. That self-titled album also certified as gold. But even though he consistently released albums all the way up until 2020, Buddy Jewell just never turned into the star that he was projected to be. Last but not least on our list is a name that you guys have probably heard before about vanishing, but they really need to be brought up because they were that good. The Wreckers, a country duo who shined with their harmonies and were a perfect pair, really. The Wreckers consisted of Michelle Branch and Jessica Harp, both who were solo artists prior to their pairing. Now, in 2006, they released their only studio album, Stand Still, Look Pretty, which featured Leave the Pieces and My Oh My. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing Leave the Pieces. The song was really good. Now, one may argue, okay, well, one album, a couple hits, we'll say one hit wonder. Well, not really, because if they were to release another album, I know I'm assuming here, but I'm telling you, I'm probably right on this one. It would do very well, and I think a lot of folks would agree. But shortly after performing as a duo for a couple of years after their album released, both decided to split off and get back to focusing on their solo careers. However, since then, neither have found the same success as they did when they were a duo. Maybe we'll get lucky enough and they will do it again and release another album. Now, guys, I know that there's a lot of folks that have entered the business and exited the business without really anything to explain it, but there's so many to cover, and we would love to know who maybe one of your favorites were, who ended up walking away from country music and you just never heard their name again. But thank you for tuning in today. These artists that we talked about really did have a highly projected career and quite frankly did very well, and the fans loved them when they were here. But that will be it for today's video. If you are new here to CountryCast, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn those notifications on as well so you never miss out on any breaking updates surrounding your favorite country artist and all the news coming right out of Music City. Y'all stay country.